Hi, everyone. Welcome to this special episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. I'm going live inside the Mama Genius Festival right now. I'm going to get started today and we're going to go back. Let's see, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and get the intro in. Getting a little bit rusty on this, but we're going to, you know what? We're women. We just kind of go with it. We roll with it and we keep on going. Welcome to the Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing the dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. So hi, everyone. We're back. And what we're going to talk about today is really how do we get inside our genius? And really the first thing we need to do as women, as entrepreneurs, that has anything to do with motherhood, anything at all, is we need to weed out the noise. What does that even mean? Well, we keep learning things, right? Even as entrepreneurs or as moms, we get all these ideas on how to do certain things. However, what works for one person may not work for you. So what we want to do is gather the information, right? We want to figure out how, especially in entrepreneurship, the first thing is how can we be consistent? So for me, I want to tell you a little bit of a story, is for over a year, I was trying to do a blog. Well, probably even longer than that, because I had a blog up on Wix. I was running it, I was doing it, and it wasn't getting much traction. So I'm like, my problem is SEO. I need to get in there. I need to get these things moving. And so I hired someone to help me get my get that all set. And so I'm learning his format, learning how to do this. Go, yeah, I can do that. That seems like that'll work. I'm gonna get all this stuff up and running. And within and he was kept telling me that in 3 months I need about 50 blogs. And I kept saying, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. It had been about a year and I couldn't even write one blog. I kept trying. I kept at this. And then what I had noticed, so I was like, you know what I need to do? I need to put myself a deadline because that always works for me. That's something I need to do. So I set myself a deadline. November 12th of 2023, I said, I'm going to have a blog launch. And I start lining up interviews. I start doing all this stuff to get ready for it. And it's like, I just need a couple questions answered. So I hadn't talked to this guy in quite a while, but it was on my birthday, which was October 25th already. So October 25th to November 12th is when this launch was happening. I was like, I just need a couple questions answered and then it's going to be okay. I'm on this call with him. And he doesn't notice, but I was like, I can just already feel the tears running down my face going, this isn't what I needed. This isn't even helping at all. And so what I realized, I get off the phone and I'm just in tears. And I'm like, this is my birthday. Nothing's going right. What do I do? And I just sat there almost like stewing. You know, have you ever felt that? Put that in the comments if you felt that, like you're just like, nothing's going right. I can't do this. And you're just sitting there stewing in that going, what's next? And that's when I realized all of a sudden, what had I been doing all along? The backstory is I'd been having interviews with all these different people, especially a lot of women circle leaders, and wanting to do these interviews so that I want to do these interviews but I want to take these interviews, take the transcripts and turn those into blogs. Seems like a lot of extra steps. We got Dia saying that, yeah, she freezes up too in this. And I got these extra steps in here because I all of a sudden realized, what was I doing? This was a podcast, except I had no idea what an RSS feed was, how to get this stuff onto Spotify, how to get this stuff onto Apple. I had no idea. And I was all of a sudden though, but I think it was really deep down, it was the fear. With the blog, for me, it was like I could hide behind the words. I could hide behind it. With the podcast, it's like front and center. It's my face. It's my voice. It's this. And even though I was doing these interviews, it wasn't quite. It was like a little bit of stepping back from it. All of a sudden, I was like, I need to step forward into it. So it was October 25th. I'm like, okay, this is going to be from a blog launch to a podcast launch. So in about 2.5 weeks, I figure out what the heck an RSS feed was, figure out how to get it up on Spotify, how to do it. I think we even have a podcast last season, what I did in that 2 weeks to actually make it happen. So go check that one out. I won't go through all the details here, but the short story of it all is that I was able to have on November 12th, around 30 people show up to have a podcast launch party. In that party and throughout the week, I had different interviews with all the people. And within the first 2 weeks, I had 12 podcasts up and running on the platform, having no clue what to do. But when we weed out the noise and we listen to what our calling is and step into it, then we can make magic happen. And that's what happened for me in this. So I went from the podcast to the blog. Now, fast forward a couple months later, I didn't even realize, I didn't even put the two things together. But the number 50 must have been in my head and stuck there because in the middle of March, I decided I just needed a little bit of break, and I was going to close out and just say this was season 1. You know how many episodes was in season 1 of my podcast, the first season? 50 episodes. And I think what happened, that number was stuck in my head and I didn't even plan it. But it took me 4 months, not 3 months, but in 4 months, I was able to get 50 episodes up and running of the podcast. That's what happens when we live in our genius. And the same thing happens, transfer to this festival that I'm running right now. Because when I saw Elizabeth Ocean run hers, I said, wait a minute, Miss Ocean, we need to know how to do this. And actually, I got off a call for today, this very day of one of our last sessions, of her telling us, because I stopped her and said, I have these dates in mind that I need to run this festival, that she create this course, last minute course for us, because it was something I asked for. And everyone's just saying how grateful they were because I stepped into it and was able to make this happen. And I had no idea what was going to happen during this festival. And even right now, as I'm coming on doing this podcast, it's like, I want to stay consistent to myself, which is what we're going to talk about in just a moment. So I was like, why am I not just going live into the festival, showing how the podcast works so that I can then tomorrow upload the podcast, keep my consistency down. So those are that's one of the things we're about to talk about right now, but I'm going to take a little break to share with you my Mama Genius quiz. So those of you who have not taken it yet, here's your chance to learn a little bit more about it. Attention mompreneurs, do you feel like you're constantly juggling the responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths, transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. Again, that's mamageniushub.com. So we're back, and I hope you guys will check out the quiz and figure out what is your archetype. And if you're inside the Mama Genius Festival, I just posted today, check the link and then share with us what your archetype is and how that feels for you, because that's what this is all about, is a collaboration of it and learning more about ourselves and what we can do with to unlock and weed out the noise. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is we're going to talk about 3 C's today. So that first C that I mentioned already is consistency. And you've probably heard that word many times. You need to be consistent. You need to make sure you can step to something. So that's why I kept thinking, well, if I'm consistent to the blog and I get these 50 blogs out, then I will have all kinds of traffic too. But it never felt right. And that's where we bring in the consistency with the idea of weeding out the noise. And what does that mean? Well, when we need to go deep inside to listen to ourselves to see if that actually feels right. So if you're listening with me and you're in a place where you can just get still for a moment, just take a moment just to get a little bit of still. We're going to take a couple deep breaths for a moment. I'm going to ask you a couple questions to see if we can weed out a little of that noise, especially for those mompreneurs out here. We're going to stick on that topic just for right now, since that's what this season's focusing on. And so we'll do that. But we're just going to take a couple deep breaths today just to ground ourselves a little bit. We're going to go in. We're really going to blow it out. Really release all that inside of us. Go in. And one more time. In. Okay, now we've taken a couple deep breaths. We're just going to kind of sit there. And I want you just to kind of just start to align and just feel your gut right there. Because really, your gut has sometimes a lot more going on than your brain sometimes. And sometimes we try to let this guide us when it's really aligning our brain with our gut to really come what's from our heart, right? So that's what we want to do, is when we want to stay consistent to something, we want to pick one thing. So for me, that was releasing the blog and realizing that the podcast was something I can be consistent with. And so when I say the platforms to you, like Instagram or Facebook or a YouTube station or a podcast or a blog. If any one of those things starts to resonate with you, like you want to pay attention when you're listening to other people give you advice on what you need to do with your business, you want to pay attention though. Did I get pings right here in my body that said, yes, that sounds like it'll actually work for me? Because again, the blog works for many people, all right? Many people are making millions of dollars on blogs or getting thousands of hits on them, right? But for me at this point, when I was trying to start things out and be consistent, I was holding myself back because I couldn't be consistent. And then of course the blame comes in, the shoulds and the whys, and why can't you do that? Why can't I be consistent? Well, it's because we're listening to the noise around us, but not honing in on the one thing we can be consistent with. Because I know each one of you has your genius there, but it's a matter of actually figuring out what aligns so I can be consistent with it. Do I enjoy doing Facebook Lives? Then that's what I should focus on and really try to remember. There's so many people out there. And as a business, I love Cathy Heller. Cathy Heller put this in perspective. What you really need to make six figures, coming from someone to make that six figures, is you need your, like the top of the mountain peak, right? To make those six figures. Should we saying you need 1,000 raving fans. So yes, that's a big number, and that's a lot of people. We're talking six figures, and we're talking about raving fans because then that starts to spread, right? However, that's still such a smaller number than we probably would have let our minds think. And so when we narrow that down with that in mind to what can I be consistent with to get 1,000 people, and again, that's raving fans, and we're talking about six figures. We're not even talking about making, just what we want to feel comfortable or what we need. We're talking about the top of the mountain. That's the top of the mountain peak. So we're bringing that into perspective with where we're at. So we're thinking about that 1,000 raving fans, but even when we start off smaller, and again, with like talking about the podcast, people will say, well, you know what? Only 5 people are listening to me, or only 25 people are listening to me. But if you had a room filled with 25 active people listening to you, would that feel different? And that's the way we need to look at it. It's the perspective of how we're looking at things and what we're trying to do. And so when we're thinking about consistency, what we want to do is think about our heart right here, right? Is reaching out to our potential clients, to the people that we need to serve. What can I do to help get that into the world? And that really is aligning and weeding out the noise that is around us. So that's number one, is consistency. So think about all the learning that you've done, okay? All the different platforms, and thinking I have to do all these different things, and really sit with it and listen to the list of like a YouTube station, Facebook Lives, to a podcast, to a blog. And a blog might be where you are, and that might be your genius. It just didn't happen to be mine because I was listening to what other people told me I should be doing. I need to listen to what was aligning with me to get my voice out there. And maybe it's going in front, speaking in front of live audiences. Maybe it's doing a lot of podcasts. What sounds like it would work for you so that you can be consistent? And that's where we get the word consistency. Is we think yes, we know we have to be, but the question is how. The how is figuring out what aligns with us. So that's number one. Our number 2C for today is, of course, then the connection. It's always got to be about connection, right? Because we're making that heart-to-heart connection with those around us, right? So when we get that consistency and we're putting our heart into it, then we're creating that connection. That's what we really want. And the more that we do that, even when no one's listening, again, it's building that muscle of really putting yourself out there, and the better you're going to get at it. So even on the days when you're not up to doing it, like I will be honest with you, today was a hard day. Today was, my husband's been out of town for all week. I started a festival, did not plan on him being out of town, but you know what? We're moms. We're strong women. We roll with it, right? And I've asked for support in other ways from other people to make up for it, right? I even, for the first time, asked a neighbor to take my son to his track meet. I've never done that before. But you know what? It's time to reach out and get some help at those times. And that's what we need to do when we have stuff that needs to get done. But again, it becomes with that connection, because we've created that support and we've done the things and we've spent our heart doing it, that people are receptive to it as well, because they know you're in it for the right reasons, right? They know that they want to support you and help you do the things that you need to do. And in return, you're going to be doing the same things. And that's what this is about. Same thing when we're in our business. It's about service. It's about really getting that heart out there and making that connection, whether no one's listening to it at all. Because the more you keep being consistent with that connection, it's going to start to take at one point, as long as you're starting to weed out the noise and going with what aligns with you to be consistent. So really focus on what actually aligns with you when you hear the word consistency, and see where that takes you. So put those two things together, consistency with the heart connection, right? Which then leads us into step number 3, which I know as women, we always leave out, and that is the celebration. I got called out on that specifically today because I was in the mode of like, I'm just a little tired. I'm not really in the moment, and I was called out at the class where we're talking about the festival, and they're like, "You are doing an awesome job. Everything that you're doing, you're putting yourself out there. You're doing things. You're supporting everyone the way you can. Like, take that in." And so, you know what I did is I sat there and I was like, and I let the words wash over me and took them in and celebrated that. Because when we don't celebrate, we just let it go by, right? And I'll actually take you back to the 50th podcast episodes where I again was just like, oh, wow, I got to these 50 podcast episodes. Okay. And again, as women, we do that, right? It was actually my husband says, we need to celebrate that. And I was almost taken aback because we've had our issues with the business and me being consistent and making money and all of that. So I was almost taken aback by his willingness to say, no, stop and celebrate. So what we ended up doing is my son had also made state for his forensic meet at the time. And so we all as a family went to a restaurant that was actually ice cream and crepes. It was an interesting mix, but we'd never been there before. And we had a really good time. But afterwards, my daughter says to us, Mom, when are you going to get to 100th episode so we can go back? And I start laughing. It's like, we can find another reason to celebrate to go back. Don't have to wait till that pack, but it will probably be in a couple months at the rate we're going. But it is but it is really about stopping at those pauses and really taking it in. So that's what I got for you today, is we are working on the 3 C's. So we've got the consistency, but again, you need to weed out the noise to make sure you're being consistent with what feels right for you, your family, your business, wherever you're at, whatever you're trying to be consistent with. It could even just be, it could be with weight loss. But is it the weight loss, or is it really that you're trying to feel better, and what movement and what foods are going to help that? So it's the way we look at things. So that's the consistency. Number 2, again, is bringing that connection to the consistency, make sure that we're bringing our heart into it to align with that to actually propel us forward. When you start to align those things, that is when magic happens. And then, of course, number 3 is we need to celebrate, and we need to celebrate each other and really lift each other up and really make sure. Oh, Doreen said, yes, when it feels right, it really feels right. That's what this is all about, is really making it feel right for us and to propel ourselves forward and really find that support and community, which is part of the connection as well, is find the people around you that help you be lifted up, be connected, and all of that. So you will be serving as the entrepreneur, but you also want to be in a community where you're feeling that connection. So we got the consistency, connection, and celebration. Yep, Doreen, even DJ even says celebrations are key. It truly is. And a lot of times we need to be reminded of it. And so I'm here to remind you, because I just got reminded of it myself today. So it's that reminder of pushing each other forward to be our best self and really live in our genius, because that's what aligns with us. That's what our soul is telling us to do anyways. Let's unleash it and stop listening to the noise around us, but really hone in on what works for us. See, we got lots of laughs from Dia in there as well. So thank you, ladies, for joining me today on this little episode of the podcast. We'll be releasing it tomorrow on your local podcast networks if you want to hear it again on a replay, but you can watch it here as well. And I'm just so excited to be part of this, hosting this Mama Genius Festival. It has really become such an eye-opener, and I'm just so excited about all the speakers we have and everything. And on top of that, for those of you listening, we are also working our way to going to Tanzania and bringing this international. So we're getting Jackie Bailey is leading a group of entrepreneurs, myself included, and my son Liam would like to attend as well. So we're collecting donations for that project as well, because what we're trying to do is he's been inspired getting his voice out there. He's going to be on the summit. He's going to be talking next week on here. And we want to help bring those programmings and things like that to kids in Africa. So we want to go there at the end of July and actually support and work in some of the schools and meet and bring some of this around the world as well, because we want to unlock everyone's genius. So I'll put the link in the chat too if you'd like to support. Any amount of money would always so greatly appreciate it. And those of you who put your email with your donations, I'll be happy to send you a version of the Kids Circle that we've had on the Mama Genius thing, where I show how to work with your kids in the morning in a type of circle that really brings out conversation between you as well. And so that's all included in all of it, because I want everyone to be living in their genius. We're about inspiring our kids as we live in our own. And I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius. Bye, everyone.